Suomessa. So warm welcome Kristoffer Lange all the way from Denmark. How is life there?
I think life is good. Life, I believe, is what you make it. So I try to make the best of it. Oh. So yeah, but it's full of challenges, for sure. But I think challenge is it's a good way of life. So
definitely, yeah. So today we are having a topic: how to become a spiritual beast.
Yes.
Whoa! And we are going to have a talk about how to deal with the world of inner and external chaos, and why we must become a beast in order to be truly successful in life.
Yes.
And Kristoffer Lange, you have been part of Brahma Kumaris since 2004. On a daily basis, you work as a social worker, and I have heard that you've been known very creative, innovative, and always enthusiastic about meditation and the spiritual knowledge connected to the practice of Raja Yoga.
Yes, very well written. Yes, I think it's. I think that this describes me quite well. I always sought out, to find the essence of things, the essence of the practice of Raja Yoga, and I found out pretty early how important it was to be intoxicated, like really spiritually intoxicated. So since then, I think probably like 6 months in, since then I always been seeking new ways of staying in very high and deep intoxication. So that's what we're going to talk a bit about today.
Yes, wonderful.
Yes.
So warm welcome, and we are ready to hear your lecture.
Thank you. And yes, very nice. And first and foremost, thank you for having me. It's really, I'm very grateful, and it's a great honor that you have asked me, that Ella contacted me. So I'm really happy for the opportunity. So thank you for that. Yes, so the title. So I thought the first thing it would be good to clarify a little bit why I have chosen such an unusual title for this talk. So first and foremost, it reflects the way that I kind of like live my life. I always seek some form of newness. And in this period of time, for the last maybe 2, 3, 4 years, I've been looking to people who live a little bit extreme, and this word of being a beast or being a monster has come up again and again. So that has inspired me. So I thought, should I call it being a spiritual monster? I thought maybe that was a little bit too harsh for the PK family. So I thought we would go for the beast. So that was a milder version of a monster. So basically, so that's just why I chose the topic, because it's close to my heart at this time. So the next question we will explore, I think, is why is it important to become a beast, or to be a spiritual beast in this sense? And there are some answers, some questions also we can ask ourselves. So if we look at the state of the world today, it's pretty clear, I believe, for most of us, is that the world is in a state of unrest. So where we go, if it's outside our door, if it's at work, any form of gathering, we have different forms of crisis. We have crisis of nature, crisis of finances, we have crisis of COVID, disease, and all these things. So regardless whether we like it or not, the fact of the matter is that we are surrounded by some form of chaos. And of course, that chaos is not constant, but at some point we will be struck by some form of illness, some form of malevolence. And therefore, it's important that we are ready for these external challenges. And I believe, for example, that we have, in all cases, we have basically two options. So either we overcome a situation or we fold. And maybe I'm a little bit naive or simplifying things a little bit, but I don't believe there is anything in between, in a sense. So either we have to overcome obstacles or we have to give in to them. And for me, the giving in is not really an option, because if we understand, for example, the laws of karma, we know that whatever I'm not dealing with at this moment, it will just come back later, and it will probably come back in an even stronger form. So I might as well confront it and meet it head on right now. So that's one point. So we have the threats. So the question I ask again: so what threats do we have to our, for example, to our inner well-being? So I mentioned the external chaos. We have different forms of discomfort, sudden lack of things, of electricity or whatever. Anything can happen at this time. So we have, for example, financial crisis, we have natural crisis, we have environmental crisis, we have the conflict of opinions in society, which is very predominant at this time. We have, for example, for ourselves, personal, we have sickness. It can be sickness within ourselves in our physical form, but it can also be the sickness, the illness of our friends and relatives. We have people in general. It is my very, how do you say, ongoing experience that people are very much out of balance. So anywhere I go, I would meet people who are in one form or another confronting in the way that they are, because they themselves are out of balance. And that creates some form of struggle or something we have to overcome in the relationship with that person. Yeah, so that's some of the main points. And I believe that the most important, absolutely number one in this, I don't know if you can guess it, but as I perceive it, it is emotions. So whatever happens in the world, in a sense, it does not really matter to us until we react to it. So in the end, all we actually need to learn really to deal with is our emotional response to the world. And that response is deeply connected to our experience of the world and our reactions. So any form of unhealthy emotional response which we have is due to some form of prior or earlier encounter with a certain situation. So it could be you are afraid of dogs, for example, because maybe one time as a kid you got bitten by a dog, or maybe you are afraid of, for example, as a man, you're afraid of women, or as a woman, you're afraid of men. So all these things, all the answers to why we have this relationship, we find in our past. So a part of becoming a spiritual beast, it is to learn how to deal with the past. And you could say you have to re-educate yourself, because what happens is when we have an emotional response which is based on a trauma, is that we create a whole world around this trauma. So first of all, we create physical reactions. So we fight or flight, or we try to avoid a certain situation. And if that is allowed to go on for a while, then what happens is that we start creating a story around this trauma, and we start building up our identity around a trauma. And you could see, for example, a trauma as a form of a seed, and then from that seed emerges like a whole tree. And then when we have to deal with situations or deal with ourselves, basically, you have to deal with the whole tree. And therefore, it is important that we get to the root of our fears and traumas in order really to, you could say, cut the tree down, or maybe we have to burn the forest down in order to sow a new garden. But that is something which requires time, and we will come to the how to deal with it or how to overcome it in a bit. So I'm looking, I have my notes here, just so you know. So if I'm looking away, that's why. So a question which I ask myself is, why is chaos there in the first place? And I believe this to be a very important question. So according to the Brahma Kumaris, the understanding that we have that all chaos in the world is always related to human activity. So in a sense, we could say you cannot really separate human activity from the world itself. And if we look at, for example, if we understand the different laws which govern the world around us, everything is connected to something prior to that. So nothing happens just by itself. So, any form of evolution or devolution is always like a process which starts from maybe like a little thing, and then that little thing becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. So according to the understanding of the Brahma Kumaris, everything is connected to this. So all troubles in the world derive basically from some form of human misunderstanding. So any form of chaos which happens externally always has its seed from within the human spirit. So in order for us basically to learn to deal with that, we need to change the very thing which caused the problem in the first place. So imagine if we try to fix the world by fixing all these different crises. Truth is, we will never get anywhere, because another crisis will just arise because we never solved the problem itself. We never dealt with the very underlying reason for any form of trouble, which there is. So for example, let's say it could be anything. It could be environmental crisis. If we look at it, and we analyze it, then we see, oh, it's due to human behavior. Yeah, I know there's some, maybe a few arguments differ, but most of the scientific world accept this idea now. And this means that we have to change our behavior. So, for example, our governments will try and make different laws, but the laws are never like truly implemented, and people never truly accept these laws either. And the thing is, if we really want to change like something profound, we need to make that change within, because then whatever is within, it will go out and that will spread. And whatever I feel like and think like and act like, that will be implemented in the world, and that will spread like a wave, like just like the same way as negative ideas and thoughts and greed and all these things will do and are doing at the same time. Okay, so we need to look at ourselves very thoroughly, very deeply, and very honestly. So in order to deal with chaos, it is most important that we can connect with something which is the opposite, you could say, or not even the opposite. It's something which stands by itself. And that is what I would refer to as truth. So if we understand that all forms of chaos is related to some form of falsehood, some form of violation of the nature of the soul, then truth is the opposite, or it's the real deal, you could say. So truth is that which stands by itself. So in the practice of the Brahma Kumaris, we practice Raja Yoga, which gives us a connection to ourselves, the spirit. So this is not some fragmented self-image or some illusion. This is truly who I am. I am that spirit. I am the soul. I am the point of light, and all these things. And all this understanding, what is the beauty, the wonder of truth is that truth does not require us to accept it. whether we accept it or not, it doesn't really matter for truth itself. It's like, mathematics. If you don't like it or don't agree with it, it doesn't matter. It's still there. And same thing goes for truth. Truth is always there, regardless whether you or I recognize it or not. So truth is not something that we have invented. Truth has always been there. But what differs is when do we connect to it or not. And the more we can stay aligned with truth, the happier, the more peaceful we will also be, because truth brings that happiness. And I'm going to say truth does not just, let's say if I choose or you choose to live by truth, it's fun enough. It's like one of the most terrifying things that we can do in our lives. It is such a confrontational thing to do. And it is truly, and I speak really from myself, it's truly terrifying in many ways to stick to what I know is right. And I believe again that all of us here have that experience in some form or another. And what we see in both within ourselves and in others, there is a tremendous resistance towards truth. I mean, just look at the political stage now. For example, you could say the United States, there's this whole battle going on where, people can just speak any form of untruth they want. And people will just believe it, accept it. And this is also very interesting. I will not go into the depths of it, but it's just to make sure that we see that it's very predominant. Falsehood, the battle between truth and falsehood, is very, very predominant in the world today. Yeah. So next point is, how do we connect to it? So through the practice of Raja Yoga, we have this wonderful meditation practice where we are taught to consider ourselves to be soul. So I think of myself as a spirit behind the eyes. I am that soul. And then I aim to stay in that stage for as long and as much as possible during the day. And then I connect my intellect and mind with the Supreme Soul, with God. And here lies the most strong foundation that I could ever find, something, again, which is outside the world. So you could say, when I go within and think of myself as the spirit, as the soul, I'm unfazed, untouched by whatever ideas there are out there of me either being a man or a woman or tall, ugly, all these things, because the soul is just beyond all that. It's even beyond sex. So I'm either man or female. We refer to the soul as male, but that's just like a pronoun. The soul is basically neutral. It contains both male and female qualities. So I'm either one and I am both at the same time. And then also a thing which is very important is to get that connection with the Supreme Soul, with God, because God is beyond any chaos. God is never affected, and God is actually the only thing, the only entity that exists which is never affected by anything, by time, by chaos, by anything. God remains the same constantly, forever and ever and ever, is never subdued to any form of transformation or change. And that makes God absolutely unique. Not even the sun can be said to have that quality, because as we know, everything in the physical world is in some form of declination, actually. So this connection with the self and the Supreme Spirit gives us this very, very strong foundation, something which we can connect to, relate to, and go back to again and again in order to withstand. When we go out and meet the world, we can go out, we can withstand that chaos, our own feelings and emotions and all the chaos which is out there, with this experience. And the deeper the experience, the more reliable it becomes, and the greater my ability will be to confront and deal with the world of external chaos and even internal chaos also. Another thing which is very important is, for example, understanding the laws of karma. One thing which I've noticed for myself is that in different aspects of life, I'm very, very impatient. And this impatience comes basically from the ego. It's the ego which desires to see results here and now. So if we truly understand, for example, the deepest and most, I don't know if it's complex or it's actually very simple, but it's the law which governs all human activity, the law of karma. If we truly understand and accept the premises of the law, then we would always have faith, basically, first and foremost, actually in ourselves. And I will come back to that, but also that, for example, in the Raja Yoga, we are taught that everything is beneficial. So as long as you are doing right, as long as you are persevering, you are staying on your lane and doing the right thing, then whatever comes to you, whatever situation arises, whatever people you meet, that is the exact right thing that you need to meet. So if we can truly implement this and truly learn to accept it, which is, I will admit it blankly, I have not come to that stage yet. It takes me maybe in many cases, it would take me some form of reflection before I get to the conclusion again, okay, there is benefit. And sometimes I maybe will not notice it till afterwards, and then I will see the benefit. So with this understanding, we can have faith in that everything is going to be okay, regardless of how bad a situation is. The outcome will be okay. And this I can say, in Danish we say, with a hand on my heart, without a doubt, I have never experienced that things were never good for anything. No, actually, no. I will stick to my guns here. Never experienced that. Any situation will always bring some form of benefit, but it requires a mindset that has adapted to that idea. Because if I think, this is bad, then I will look for the bad and I will experience bad. But if I start looking for the good in it, then I can easily come out of any form of, for example, emotional turmoil. Then I will look for solutions, look for ways out instead of being burdened by ideas, again, by the reaction which I have. And for example, also another thing which we talk a lot about in the Brahma Kumaris is, for example, the life cycle of the soul. And the cycle, we call it the drama cycle. And basically here we talk about that every soul has its own, you could say, every soul belongs somewhere. And we don't need to change that soul or make that soul become like us. All we need to is to connect to the truth within ourselves. And then that soul, which is, for example, in front of us, will automatically connect to the level of truth that it can take. So I'm, again, sure most of us, we have this experience of we want too much for others. And what happens is we push them, we pressure them, we try to make them, become better than they want to be, or we try to make them as good as us. We want them to understand exactly what we understand, but we cannot force anything, either good or bad, upon others. So it's most important that to have that peace within and say they will come to that conclusion at their own time. And this is, for me, a very, very nice thought, which gives me peace in my connection with others. I don't need to change them. I shouldn't even try to change them. Just be the best version of myself, and then everything will be okay. Okay. So I will skip as I see time is passing by. So what we will talk a little bit about, I will touch in on the subjects of some powers which are required in order for us to deal with the external chaos. And again, to be a spiritual beast. I really like this. So I'll just touch a little bit upon the subject. Why did I choose this? To be a beast, I could have called this talk like be a master, almighty authority, or like I said earlier, be a monster or something. During my BK life, I found many, many different words and, figures, for example, figures from the scriptures, or it could be like Arjuna. So you connect yourself with the idea of you are being Arjuna, the one who takes the initiative, or you are being, for example, the goddess Durga, who is almighty, fearless and powerful. And I think that it's important, like I said earlier, it's important that you always seek some form of innovation in your thoughts, because we are constantly changing. So our lives should always, should always also mirror that change. My effort should never be just the same, because if I'm changing, it would also mean that my effort should also change in some form or another. So that's why I believe it's so important that we find some form of newness. And for example, so that's why for me the idea of being this beast is really important, because I need to be a beast in order to confront the monsters within. Because I'm sure that all of you also know this, we are so full of demons inside. So if I let myself, patronize or overruled by the inner monsters, evil spirits within, the demons which come and say you're not good enough, or you're weak, or all these things, then I will not, I will not overcome them. I will not prevail. That's it. And that is so important. So I use these words, for example, to remind myself of, yes, I am a beast, I am a monster, and there is nothing in my life which I cannot deal with. And this is connected to basically to the understanding of karma also. So one of the powers, which the most important power, first and foremost, is the power of truth. Truth gives me first and foremost a solid foundation. It gives me the only truly solid foundation I can find. I can find temporary foundations in ideas and thoughts, but if they're not 100% based upon truth, then at some point the ground will start shaking. So, truth about the self, the soul, truth about karma, to understand that everything, and this for me is a very, very powerful point. So, for example, to understand that I have created everything in my life. Whatever happens in my life, I have laid the foundation to it. That means that I am the master of this creation. And if I go a little deeper into it, if I am the master of this creation, how can the creation be more powerful than me? So if I accept this thought, it would mean that there is no situation in the world that I cannot deal with, because I have created it. How can the creation be more powerful than the one who has created it? So this is, for me, a very strong thought to have. And then the next thing is we need faith in truth. So I need to have faith, believe in what I believe in. So I need to be experienced in my faith, or experienced in the truth which I am trying to implement in my life. And in order to become experienced, I need to challenge that truth. And this is very important. If I do not challenge the truth, then I will just have it as an idea, something which sounds nice, but I will not have the practical experience of it. And that will mean it would just be some form of idea, something which is out there like many other ideas, and will not become implemented in my life deeply. So that's very important too. And then we need the power to face, like I mentioned earlier. If you're unwilling to face external situations, you will run or you will fold. But again, understanding the laws of karma, whatever you try to avoid, it will hunt you down. So you can choose either to be the hunter or the prey. If you are the prey, things will happen when you don't want them to happen. If you are the hunter, then you can choose when and where things are to happen. And then again, this is about taking the initiative. Be the master of your creation. Be the master of your life. Go ahead and find your defects and challenge them. Challenge your weaknesses. Don't just do what you're good at. Find out what you're bad at, and then embrace that and become better at it. Yes, and most importantly, what we must learn to deal with, what we must learn to face, is our emotional response. Like I said earlier, The world is just the world, basically. And it has no meaning to me, no effect upon me, except when I'm reacting to it. Before that, it means nothing to me. So I must learn to deal with that emotional response. And again, I believe that we are all very familiar with these very, very big emotions. We have huge emotions within, which can be pictured as like an ocean, which is like a storm, or really, again, speaking from my own perspective, sometimes these emotions are so powerful that it completely fills up the entire of my being almost, and I believe myself to be forced to stay in that stage forever. But it's never the case. This is always temporary, and when we learn to look at it and detach ourselves from that emotion, the emotional response, then we can start acting according to our own values and qualities. And then another quality which is also very useful, power, that's the power of tolerance. I need to be able to tolerate the emotional response, because if I cannot tolerate it, then I will give into it. So if I become angry or lustful, then I will engage in the anger or the lust. And that would mean that I would add on to that fire, and I will make that vice even stronger. So toleration is very, very important also. And then I've put here in as the last of these, and of course we need many more powers, but just a few to focus on. I've chosen enthusiasm. And this has been said many times, for example, about me, that I'm very enthusiastic, and I've always been very enthusiastic. And this for me is very, very important, because I do not know if I would have been able to stay on this path. Probably I would not, if it hadn't been because of this ability or this willingness to continue and find enthusiasm in both my spiritual progress and in basically in every aspect of my life. And this is actually something which I noticed, that it's not enough for me just to have spiritual aims. I have to have aims, goals set for every aspect of my life. So according to the journey and the Brahma Kumaris, we are aiming to become perfect human beings, which is, it sounds almost a little bit crazy, but basically that is nonetheless the aim that we have here. So it means like someone who is full of virtues, who is fearless, who is loving, who is peaceful, all these things. The aim is like extremely high. And because it's so high, there's no way we're just going to get there within a fortnight. It takes intense work, intense meditation, intense practice, and intense goal setting also. And I believe this to be very important in order for us to apply this beast mode, is to always find new aims for yourself. The moment that you do not have an aim, what happens is you start going in a downward spiral. Then you will just seek some form of external pleasure or another. So therefore, we have to be focused. And I can use a picture which illustrates it, I believe, very well. For example, normally before I came to the Brahma Kumaris, I was literally in the quicksand of my emotions and the vices and everything. And what I see what the Raja Yoga gave me an aim, it gave me an anchor, something that I could put on. I could throw this, you could say, this anchor to the shore, and slowly but surely start to pull myself onto the shore, away from that quicksand. But as soon as I let go of that aim, I will just start going back to that quicksand. It's amazing. It's literally amazing that it happens. But I'm pretty sure that most of BKs and anyone will recognize this. And this we have to understand is because it's the law of nature. It is not something which we have invented. The reason why we go back, because it's the law of nature that we go from, we naturally decline. The soul, everything in the universe declines. So it takes no effort to fall. Any fool can fall, but it takes more than a fool to climb out of the quicksand of the bog, like Baba calls it in the Murlis. So what I aim to do is to have plans, to have goals for the food that I eat, for the exercise. I exercise quite a lot, and a few years ago, people were like questioning that, but now I see more and more BK's exercise because it supports my spiritual life also. And if I have aims, it becomes more fun. I'm more enthusiastic. I love training, for example. I would never give it up. And I see again, if I have, for example, the enthusiasm, if I seek newness, then it keeps on being fun. Same thing with the spiritual progress. If I have the same thoughts again and again, I will start getting bored. That's again the nature of the mind. So I must seek newness in that. And everything. So work, for example, also. I must seek challenges. If a place becomes too comfortable, then I start to decline. And this is what we have to understand. We need resistance in order to progress. The moment that you remove resistance, we start declining. We start falling back to our old selves. And that's why we should aim always to find some form of resistance in order to continue to grow. Yeah, that sounds a little harsh, but anyways, I stick to my guns. This is what I know. Yeah. So I think that covers it. 37 minutes. Is that okay, sister?
Thank you. Beautiful, beautiful lectures. And there was so much different kind of things to think about, and your experience and examples for beautiful to hear. Deal with our emotions and how to deal with past, and how can I get to roots of field of trauma and that kind of thing. I've started to, whoa, very nice. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. Thank you for listening.
There is one nice writing there that this is so true. In order to become spiritual beast, I first need to overcome the monsters in me. So if I recognize the monsters in me, but not able to overcome it, what should I do?
That's a very good question. So like I said, what is the alternative? So if you stick, either you overcome or you fold. But in the long run, folding, giving in is never an option, because like I said, it will come after you. So the question we must ask ourselves, how willing am I? How much do I want this? Do I really want to overcome it, or do I wish to stay? And I believe it differs from soul to soul. So I cannot force I cannot force my desire to overcome it upon anyone, but we have to become very clear. So is your aim equivalent to what you want, if that makes sense? So you have to be very clear about your aim again. So for example, if something is truly troubling me, what I need is I must find, so it's like a weight scale, right? So first of all, we have to understand the beginning of the journey, the weight scale is overly balanced towards the negativity. There's no doubt about it. There's no way you become a Brahmin and then all of a sudden the weight scale is just plus, plus, plus. That's not happening, because it requires effort. Everything is bound by your actions, the law of karma. So you have been performing negative actions for centuries, millennia. So what you have to do in a very short time with Baba's help, you need to, tip the balance scale in the right, and that is a long effort which is required. So you have to work on it again and again. You have to work on the thoughts that you have about yourself. And one thing which I've been practicing very much and been truly like experiencing is that you have to be willing. So let's say you have some form of fear, for example, right? So let's say that you have a unsolved fear, for example, of the opposite sex, right? You are terrified of, for you, it could be men. I could be terrified about women. So what should I do? So the question is, I could sit and meditate all day and not engage in my fear because, of any different forms of thoughts. Or I can go do the meditation and then go and confront my fears. And I believe this is what I've been practicing. This is what I'm sharing with you. I've chosen that way of challenging my fears. So if I'm terrified of women, of sisters, then what I must do is I must put myself in those situations again and again and re-educate my mind and understand that they are not so terrible. They're not so terrifying, because all fear is the creation of my own mind. It's a creation of a past trauma. Does that make sense? So grasp your life. So in Danish, we say grasp the bull by its horns, right? Take action. Don't wait for things to solve themselves. Be the master and solve them by your interacting, and do it from that spiritual foundation, and you will guaranteed overcome. But you have to stick to it. Never shy away. Okay.
Thank you. And that is so true, that we always have to have an aim, and we have to know where we are going to. And I say in Finnish, tosiaan nyt jos haluatte, niin mitä tahansa voi kysyä, niin meillä on tulkkaaja tässä paikalla, niin olkaapa hyvä. So anything.
Exactly what I was thinking. Exactly. Didn't understand a word.
So I'm asking people if they have anything to ask. They can open up their mic and make a question.
Yes. By all means, ask questions. I will have a sip of water. Is it all silent out there?
Yes. In Finland, it's always silent.
Oh, yes. Come on, Finnish people. And this is what I'm talking about. You Finnish people, you should come out of your comfort zones and start speaking. So, for example, let me give you a good example. I was being a little bit nervous before we started, right? And that is good, because it means that I am challenging my comfort zone. And this is basically the aim. So in order to become a spiritual beast, become comfortable in the uncomfortable. If you're uncomfortable with speaking forward in front of others, you should aim to speak in front of others. If you are uncomfortable in being silent with others, then you should aim and practice being silent with others. Does that make sense? Whatever makes you afraid, go hunt it. And then you become a beast, because then any situation, you will have experienced something prior to that. You had put yourself in a situation which was more dangerous, more challenging than that. And therefore, when it happens, you be a beast, because you know anything I can deal with. Life does not have anything in store for me which I cannot deal with.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Now there is Johanna is writing here that how do you combine Raja Yoga meditation with social work?
Social work, oh yeah. I think that's, as we say again in Danish, that's it's like mentioning like to football. So it's det ligger lige til højre ben. The thing is, when I work with myself, when I am being honest with myself, that is the core value in order to be successful working with other people, because we always have an effect on other people. So if you're unaware of your own being, first and foremost, if you don't know who you are, you will allow others to overstep your boundaries, and that would lead to anger, chaos, dislike for the self and for the other person. So that's one thing. And then also you become more genuine. So my heart is very open, and because I'm not dependent upon others, what they think of me, or what they want from me, because I'm free of that. That means that they can be much more free in that relation. So I experience that I genuinely connect very easily and very well with basically all people, but kids are easier. I love working with kids because it's more simple. They're just so easy to connect with. They're not so damaged as we are. Yes, was that?
Yes. Thank you, beautiful. I can imagine that people who are working with you are very lucky. And here is one more question. I have tried to challenge myself to speak in front of people, but the result has been even worse instead of overcoming the fear.
So you became more fearful. Is that how I understand it?
I think so. Yeah.
Yes. So I will seen from that point, and that's very, very normal. So the thing is, if we don't have a foundation, like I said, I can only speak from my own experience of how to overcome. If you don't have a foundation which matches your fears, then you will just go into some other form of ego or some other form of fear, because we identify with, for example, with the outcome. This is one thing which I noticed in myself. I would identify myself with the very outcome. So, for example, let's say that I confront my fear. So I speak to someone, and then I start, gibbering, and maybe I go blank, and I've had all these experiences, even as a BK, especially as a BK. So my mind goes blank. I sit and become like a statue, and the fear, the sweat, everything is going on. And then you could say, oh, but I was not successful. Yes, you were successful. You were very successful, because what you did is you challenged your fear. But if you stop there, no, then you're not successful. So what you need to do is you need to do it again. And next time you'd be just a little bit less afraid, or even maybe more afraid, but you will do it again. And then you will do it again, and you will do it again, and you will do it again, until that spirit, I was just about to say a bad word, leaves the room. Because if you continue, you will overcome. This is guaranteed. But again, you have to have the foundation of truth. Connect to who you are. Understand who you really are. You are the soul. You are not these inferior fears, these inferior emotions. This is not you. This is the result of your traumatic experiences. And you are not that. Okay?
Yes.
So go at it.
Thank you so much. Wonderful. Very, 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 very beautiful to hear all these things. I think that, is there any more questions? Kristoffer, do you want to add something?
How are you in Finland? Is Finland okay?
It's beautiful here. It's so
Yes.
warm, and sun is shining, and
Oh, it is. Well, so you got all the good weather, I should say. I'm using my tolerance power. We just had like rainy, cloudy for like a month now in a row. It's very cold here in Denmark. So yeah, I'm using my powers to overcome the bad weather.
they're sending you a lot of sun from here.
Thank you. I will take that.
Yes.
Very good.
I think that if it's okay for you, we could start our meditation.
That's perfect.
Sorry, can I just interrupt?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, Kristoffer.
Hi.
My name is Linda.
Hi, Linda.
And I'm part of the group, but I'm actually from South Africa.
Ah.
And I just wanted to comment on your comments about truth.
Yeah.
And how terrifying truth is.
Mm.
And I'm a very new BK, but I found that to be so true. I found that truth is so sometimes overwhelming sometimes, because, especially when we look at our natures and our sanskars, and we look at our egos. For example, you might think of yourself as being an honest person. But then when you weigh up that honesty against what Baba teaches us and expects from us, then you realize that you only have the honesty of the world, and of the drama. And so understanding and learning about Baba's truth has been very, very interesting and very terrifying, because that truth is so perfect, it's so pure, it's so unrelenting. And, Baba often says in the Murlis that the standard is very high. And you can feel very disheartened by that. But like you said, if you just continue, if you keep going, if you set yourself that goal, then it becomes easier. So Om Shanti, that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, absolutely. It's good. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you for sharing. And now maybe time for meditation.
Yes.
Kristoffer, is it okay? If it's okay for you, it would be nice if you could join for a meditation. Unfortunately, we won't get any music at the moment.
Sorry, do you want me to make a commentary? Is that what you're saying?
For the meditation, if it's okay for you to speak a little bit.
Yes, yes, of course. I was not aware. All right, good. I will do that. I take some deep breaths and remind myself of who I am. I am not this body, but the soul that lives within. The entity which gives life to this body. And I connect myself to that understanding. And I concentrate my thoughts in the point, behind the eyes. So many thoughts, so many qualities to rejoice about. I am an eternal spirit. I, the soul, cannot be killed. I can neither burn nor drown. I, the soul, am immortal. I will live forever. And within me, great qualities, great powers. And I remind myself of how powerful I am. And there's no need to be shy about it. I am supremely powerful. I am a great soul. Powerful soul. I am a beast in my own right. Life cannot break me. No one can hurt me. Only that which I choose. Can touch me. I'm peaceful and powerful. Beautiful soul. I am a great soul. And no one can touch me. Nothing can stop me. As long as I stick to my truth. My values. No matter how fearful I might become, it is the only right thing to do. To stick to the truth. And I choose to stick with truth. Regardless of how inconvenient it might be. Regardless of how uncomfortable it might be. I will challenge my fears. My fears of rejection. My desires of belonging. And my wish for certain outcomes. Truth doesn't care about that. So neither should I. I am a powerful soul. A great soul. A mighty spirit. Full of virtues and powers. And I embrace the challenges of life. The grind of life. Like a champ. Like a real beast. I call out life Bring whatever you got. And I will overcome it. And I will claim victory. Over any situation or any emotion. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Thank you, Kristoffer. And I think that now there in Denmark, here in Finland, in South Africa, wherever we have people at the moment, will be very peaceful, powerful, beautiful, and great beasts, like you said.
Yes.
And nothing's going to stop us, and there is no fear, right?
Sounds just about that.
Yes. I wish a beautiful spring and summertime there. And I was just thinking that we are going to have some summer retreats here in Finland. And
Yes.
maybe there is a chance that we can invite you to come to speak again for us.
That'd be wonderful. And even if double up, if the weather is good, then sure, I will be there.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Self, and thank you for having me. Such a blessing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.